I'm just waiting for my guest, Christina, to come on, and then we'll start our celebrity estate story with Robin Williams. Anyways, welcome, Christina, again to our monthly estate planning celebrity stories.
Yes, thank you for having me, as usual.
So we are going to talk about Robin Williams today. The good news is he did an estate plan. He did a trust, which we definitely commend him for. He had 3 marriages in his lifetime and 3 children, 1 from his first marriage and 2 from his second marriage. He left many of his assets to his children. And he left the house that he was living in with his third wife to his wife for the rest of her life. Sounds great, right? So what's the issue? In summary, he didn't leave anything to the wife, and so she refused to let anybody in the house. So, Christina, where do you want to lead us on this?
Well, a lot of times we have that, especially with second, third, and fourth marriages, is that wants their spouse to be able to remain in the house for their lifetime. But at the same time, in their will, they gift all of their personal property to somebody else, to their children, which is very similar in this case. And so the children wanted access to the home to get his belongings, but the wife felt she still lived there, and she was able to live there for the rest of her life. So why should they have the right to come into the home and take out anything? And, personal property could include furniture sometimes too. So unless it's really, really specific as to which personal property he was leaving, it could have avoided the fight.
Right. So it looks like what happened is it went to court. The judge intervened, which, they like to settle things if they can, and agreed that she can have all the wedding gifts, which of course makes sense. She could have like memorabilia from their wedding, but it looks like everything else has to go to the children. And it seems like in the end, she was happy with it, and she might have even made off better because they were now paying for her maintenance of the house, which they didn't mention was included initially. I don't know if you've read anything elsewhere about that, Christina.
No, I didn't see anything else about that, but I did want to say on your point is that's very important, whether you can leave somebody the right to live in the house. If you don't dictate the terms within your will or your trust to say, okay, well, my spouse could live there, but, she's responsible for the upkeep and maintenance, or is she responsible just for, if there's a mortgage, the mortgage, what's considered upkeep and maintenance? Well, what happens if the roof needs to be replaced? Is she responsible for the roof? Why would she want to spend thousands of dollars to fix a roof on a house that she's not going to, inherit herself or be able to pass down to her family or her friends or what she wants to do with it? But maybe she must do that in order to live in the house. Sometimes I've also seen a sub-trust within it. I want my spouse to live in the house for the remainder of her, life, and the proceeds of the trust are to be used to pay for the upkeep and maintenance of the house until she leaves. Also, some good terms to always think about when you have it's called what I call a right of occupancy to live in a home is, well, what happens if that wife were to remarry? Do you want the new spouse to be able to live in your home? So just saying it is not enough. You really have to think of each and every situation, and having a good estate planning attorney there to tell you, okay, well, what happens if ABC happens, or what happens if, 1, 2, 3 happens. So thinking outside of the box is a big thing.
Yeah, and really thinking of all those contingencies and what if this, what if that. Christina, I just think you're brilliant when it comes to all of these scenarios and playing out everything. And I have to wonder, like Robin Williams, very wealthy, he left $100 million estate. Like, how did his attorneys overlook this? What would you recommend for the average person who wants to do estate planning to find an attorney how do they know to find an attorney that can think these things through?
Well, sometimes just, I don't want to say window shopping, but maybe a couple of consultations to see who you're more comfortable with. But sometimes I have to say it's not the attorney. If I had clients come to me and I said, well, who do you want to get if, God forbid, all you and your beneficiaries all die together? Oh, that's never going to happen. And then I have to convince people, okay, it's not, you're right, but my job is just in case it does. All of the worst case scenarios. So just really, I say having an attorney who only focuses on, or their main focus is estate planning, elder law, will really think outside of that box. So finding
Right.
one that specializes or focuses in those areas is really what you're trying to look for.
Yeah. Right. And you want to, when you're looking for an attorney, you want to kind of interview them. Don't just take, read a sign on the door says they're an attorney and then, they've got the right price, hire them. You might find attorneys, and I know a few of them, unfortunately, who they do things really cheap in the hopes that, the family's they do estate planning, they'll do a will for like a couple bucks essentially. And then they really charge the family an arm and a leg to do the probate process, right? So they, it's a system for them and a way to make a lot of money. So they do a simple will and then hope the family comes back and hires them, and then they overcharge. So you definitely want to ask a lot of questions, interview the attorney, and like Christina said, make sure you feel comfortable with them because you're essentially going to be working with them for a long time. You want to make sure that you get along and that they're responsive and helping. Okay, so I think that's kind of sums up Robin Williams. Anything you want to add, Christina?
No, that's it.
All right, so the big takeaway, guys, is if you're going to leave just one thing for someone, make sure you've thought out all the angles around what it means for that person to have that one thing. If it's going to be a house, who's going to pay for the maintenance? If it's just the house, they're responsible for it, make that clear. The more clear you can be, the less confusion and the less conflict.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We appreciate you listening.